An attacker stole an access key, spun up 20 crypto mining instances in a region you've never used, created a backdoor IAM user, and deleted an S3 bucket on the way out. Can you prove every move? You can, if one thing was turned on before the breach. AWS CloudTrail. Welcome to Cloud Forensics, where the evidence isn't on a disk you can seize. It's an API call you hope somebody logged, and the cloud's dirtiest secret, it logs nothing by default. Start with the shared responsibility model because it decides what evidence even exists. AWS owns the physical layer, the hypervisor. You own the guest OS, the application logs, and crucially, whether logging is even on. CloudTrail. VPC Flow Logs S3 access logs, every one of them. Customer enabled, off by default. So the very first forensic question in any cloud case, was logging configured before the incident? If not, the evidence never existed, and CloudTrail is the one that matters most. It records every API call, who did what, when, and from which IP. CloudTrail. 3 event types, memorize all 3. Management events, the control plane. Create instance, delete bucket, create user. The big structural moves, data events, the data plane. S3, get object, lambda invoke, object level access. And these need extra configuration to capture. Insights events, anomaly detection, a sudden spike in API errors, and the fields you live in, user identity, username, event name, source IP address, event time, always UTC. Error code, because a burst of failed calls is often the attack itself, probing for what it can touch. Network evidence. VPC Flow Logs are AWS's NetFlow, source IP, destination, port, protocol, bytes, and accept or reject. No payload, just metadata. But that metadata reconstructs the whole story. External IPs hitting your instances, lateral movement between EC2 boxes, and a giant outbound byte count that screams data exfiltration. And S3 server access logs, enabled pure bucket, separate from CloudTrail data events, and they tell you exactly who pulled which object out of storage. Now seize the disk. EC2 acquisition runs on EBS snapshots. The sequence, create a snapshot of the volume. Build a new forensic volume from that snapshot. Attach it to your investigation instance, read-only. Mount it read-only. Done. A clean, point-in-time image without ever touching the suspect box's live file system. Need memory? Use SSM run command to push a capture tool onto the instance and ship the dump out to S3. Snapshot for disk, SSM for RAM. GuardDuty. This is AWS's threat detector, and here's the exam trap. It is not a log source, it's an analysis service. It chews on CloudTrail, VPC Flow Logs, and DNS logs, and it spits out findings. Console login success from a weird country, credential compromise, SSH brute force against EC2, Bitcoin tool DNS queries, a crypto miner, CNC activity, a compromised instance phoning home. GuardDuty doesn't store the evidence, it points at it. IAM access, key compromise, the most common cloud incident there is. The response order is tested directly. Step 1. Disable the key immediately. Update access key, status inactive, stop the bleeding before you investigate. Then, query CloudTrail for every single action tied to that access key ID. What did it touch? Now hunt the persistence. New IAM users, new access keys, new roles, change bucket policies, fresh security group rules. Attackers always leave a way back in. Find every door. Cross the street to Azure. Different names, same game. Azure Activity Log, subscription level control plane operations, retained 90 days by default. Azure AD sign-in logs, authentication events, 30 days. Know both retention numbers, the exam loves them. Azure AD audit logs, track changes to users and groups. and Azure Sentinel is the SIEM that ingests all of it for long-term correlation. Activity log for what changed. Sign-in logs for who logged in. Azure Disk Acquisition mirrors AWS. Stop the VM, create a disk snapshot, grant a SAS URL, download the VHD, then convert it to RAW with ChemWimG, and mount read-only. And the queries, Azure runs on KQL, Custom Query Language, pipe where, pipe summarize, pipe project. Nothing like SQL and the exam tests that you recognize it. One more gold mine, Key Vault audit logs, secret get, key decrypt. They reveal the instant an attacker reached for your crown jewel secrets. Cloud forensics in one breath, nothing logs by default. Confirm logging existed before the incident. CloudTrail is king. Management, data, insights, events. VPC Flow Logs are NetFlow for AWS. EBS snapshot for disk, SSM for memory. GuardDuty analyzes, it doesn't store. IAM key compromised, disable first, investigate second. Azure, activity log 90 days, sign-in logs 30, queried with KQL. Hash everything the moment you export it. Next up, Objective 12.2. Google Cloud, Workspace, and the SaaS world where you can't image anything, 7 to go.